Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gandhi. Let's get started. As the anger boils over following the gruesome rape and murder of a trainee doctor in India's Kolkata at a government-run hospital, the big question is, who is covering up the truth? That's our top story tonight as we tell you what the parents of the victim are saying. Here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show. What's the latest on the Kursk incursion as Ukraine aims to create a buffer zone? We get you the latest from on the ground. We ask, what is the strategy? Where really are things headed? What is the end game here? With Antony Blinken's 9th trip to the region since the October 7 war between Hamas and Israel broke out, we ask, can he really succeed where he has failed before? We tell you all about the Mpox outbreak. Should you be worried where all has the disease spread? Is India prepared? All this and more coming up tonight. The anger is boiling over. The Kolkata hospital horror has sent shockwaves across the country, and the anger on the ground is palpable. The question is, who is covering up the truth? When will the truth come out? By now, you would be aware of the brutal barbarism that a resident doctor in India's Kolkata had to go through. She was raped and murdered at her workplace, a government-run hospital. Her parents' worst nightmare came to life. Their daughter's life was horribly cut short. Just imagine what the parents had to go through. It is heartbreaking to say the least. In fact, the parents of the trainee doctor have said they were initially told by a hospital official that their daughter died by suicide. Listen in to an excerpt from their statement.
বলেছিলেন আপনার বাড়ি যাব সবকিছু ঠিক হবে দোষীদের তাড়াতাড়ি ধরে ফেলবো কিছুই তো দেখতে পেলাম না যে এখনো পর্যন্ত কেউ ধরা পড়লো কোনো ক্লু পেলো
कॉलेज का कोई हमारा साथ कोऑपरेट नहीं किया पहले से तो हम ये बोल रहा है यही तो दिक्कत है हम लोगों का जो डिपार्टमेंट पूरा इसलिए इन्वॉल्व है इसमें उधर 3 बॉडी पड़ा हुआ था लेकिन उसका पहले ही हमारा लड़की का बॉडी जला दिया गया.
The victim's mother accused the Kolkata police of trying to close the investigation as fast as possible. According to the victim's mother, the police did not carry out a proper investigation. She alleged that the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee was trying to stamp out protests swelling across the state against the heinous crime, and also said that the Kolkata police did not investigate the incident properly. In fact, both the parents accused the Chief Minister of stifling the protests, demanding justice for their daughter, who was brutally raped and murdered. They allege there were attempts to hush up the case as soon as possible. The victim's father, in fact, said they are not satisfied with the Chief Minister, that they are unhappy with the Chief Minister and how they have refused to take any compensation. He also expressed his displeasure over the lack of outcome following the probes. He said that no results have come out of the inquiry that is being done and that they hope they will get results. Meanwhile, the West Bengal State Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is facing flack for taking out a protest over the rape and murder. Questions were asked. Who was she even protesting against? She is, after all, the state's chief minister, also the health minister, by the way. Amid backlash on social media following the announcement of the Chief Minister's participation in that protest, the TMC Rajya Sabha MP Derek O'Brien had to explain the reason why Mamata Banerjee decided to lead the rally. According to him, the CBI, which is now handling the case, must give daily updates on the investigation. He added that the deadline given by the Chief Minister to the Kolkata police to complete the investigation was 17th of August, so the same should have applied to the CBI. According to him, Kolkata police arrested one accused and justice will happen only when the CBI nabs all involved and sends the case to a fast-track court. The anger on the ground is growing with each passing day. In Kolkata, protesting doctors took out a march despite heavy rainfall. Meanwhile, the Resident Doctors Association of AIIMS on Sunday wrote to the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, seeking his intervention for enactment of a central law via an ordinance to protect the healthcare workers and institutions across the country. The body also urged for restoration of law and order at the state-run college and hospital in Kolkata, where the trainee doctor was allegedly raped and killed. The AIIMS RDA also drew the Prime Minister's attention to the subsequent vandalism at the hospital and the worrying rise in violence against doctors, healthcare workers, medical institutions across the country. Doctors of the medical institutions said in their letter that hospitals, like temples, are sanctuaries where healing and hope are nurtured. They called for the protection of these sacred spaces. They also said that doctors work in an environment filled with life and death challenges, which leaves them especially vulnerable, stating that escalating violence against doctors is profoundly troubling. The association has called for strong and uniform laws to safeguard those who have devoted their lives to the noble service of others. Hospitals, like temples, are sanctuaries where healing and hope are nurtured, yes. And those who work to heal people need to be safe at their workplace. They cannot work in an atmosphere of fear. As per reports, the post-mortem report of the victim highlights external injuries on the body. Abrasions on the cheeks, lips, nose, neck, arms and knees, as well as injuries to the private parts. Disturbing details have emerged and questions are being asked. Are women not safe anywhere? What happened with the trainee doctor was barbaric. The gruesome rape and murder led to people taking to the streets demanding justice. Like we said, the CBI has got permission to conduct a polygraph test of the arrested accused. There is hope that the truth will come out soon. The stakes could not be higher. This is, after all, about the safety of women. The demand for justice will continue till the truth comes out. On to Bangladesh now. Will the country ever see a truly democratic government again? Or are we witnessing the birth of a forever government, cloaked in the guise of reform? The precarious state of democracy in Bangladesh continues to be a matter of grave concern. As per reports, Mohammad Yunus made a pledge publicly to hold elections, but there is a catch here, a catch that raises more questions than answers. Yunus insists that a free, fair and participatory election can only occur after the interim government completes its mandate to implement what he describes as vital reforms. Now, what does that mean? And more importantly, who gave him that mandate in the first place? Is this truly a mandate from the people? As per reports, in his first interaction with the foreign diplomat stationed in Dhaka on Sunday, Yunus laid out a list of necessary reforms in the Election Commission, judiciary, civil administration, security forces, and the media. Now, on the surface, these may sound like necessary steps to rebuild a shattered democracy, but let's not forget the context here. Yunus accused the previous government under Sheikh Hasina of breaking every institution in the country, claiming the judiciary was compromised and democratic rights were crushed under a regime he labeled as a dictatorship.
Sheikh Hasina dictatorship destroyed every institution of the country. Judiciary is broken. Democratic rights suppressed through a brutal decade-and-a-half-long crackdowns in every way. Elections were rigged blatantly. Generations of young people grew up without exercising their voting rights.
Now, if the previous government was indeed a dictatorship, as Yunus claims, then why should the people of Bangladesh trust this new regime, which seems to be following a similar path of consolidating power? Is this just another power grab under the pretext of reform? And how long will these so-called reforms take? Weeks, months, years? We do not know. But the longer this process drags on, the more it begins to look like an excuse to delay the elections indefinitely. Let's just consider the implications of what Yunus has actually proposed. The reforms, he argues, are crucial for transforming the country into a real and thriving democracy. If Yunus is waiting for the students, the so-called revolutionary force behind this interim government, to establish a democratic government, how long are we really talking about? In the meantime, who is holding this government accountable is also the question. As per reports, there have been calls from various corners internationally for steps to restore a democratic government in Bangladesh. Over 50 diplomats were present when Yunus made his statements, including representatives from India and the United Nations. According to reports, Yunus spoke of a future Bangladesh, one that is poverty-free and prosperous, supported by the international community. But then let's not get lost in the rhetoric. The reality is far more complex. You see, this is a government that was not elected by the people. It was brought together by a set of unprecedented circumstances, with Yunus himself claiming 27 portfolios, 27 for his interim government. And these are not minor positions, by the way. They are the very heart of the country's administration and functioning. Experts said that the interim government's actions since it came to power do not point towards a healthy democracy, but rather a red flag, signaling the rise of another authoritarian regime. Most of the government's time has been spent on crackdowns, like blocking the passports of 600 influential people, many of whom allegedly benefited from the Awami League government, or sporadic instances of a show of power, like last week when it called back 7 ambassadors appointed by the Awami League back to Dhaka. Experts said that Bangladesh's constitution does little to clarify the situation as far as the interim government is concerned, and in many ways it only complicates matters. The 13th Amendment in Bangladesh's constitution established provisions for a caretaker government to conduct general elections and transfer power. According to this amendment, elections had to be held by a caretaker government within 3 months, but this was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court and subsequently abolished by the Awami League government in 2011. So where does that leave Bangladesh now? The constitution does not provide clear guidance on the scenario of an interim government, leading to a legal dilemma that only adds to the uncertainty. Yunus's latest comments will undoubtedly stir fears within the opposition. Former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia, who has spent the last 4 years under house arrest, is unlikely to sit quietly as UNIS consolidates power. Zia, in fact, has already called for early elections and a transition to a democratic government. Meanwhile, Sheikh Hasina's son, Sajib Wazid Joy, has said that his mother may return to Bangladesh whenever fresh elections are announced. But here's the crux of it all. We do not know how long this interim government is going to last. Bangladesh's political future remains shrouded in uncertainty, and only time will tell whether this government will actually deliver on the promises or fall into the same trap that has plagued the country for so long. Let's now shift focus to the war zone that has had the world on edge for over 2 years now. Ukraine says that its incursion into Russia aims to establish a buffer zone to prevent Russia's cross-border attacks into Ukraine. But the question is, has Ukraine laid the groundwork for that? Can Ukraine really achieve its goal in Kursk? Here's a detailed report.
On Monday, Russia said the Ukrainian air forces damaged a third strategic bridge in Russia's Kursk region after striking 2 others used to supply troops. Ukraine is yet to comment on the third reported strike. On Sunday, Kyiv's Air Force chief said that his forces had destroyed 2 bridges in recent days to weaken enemy logistics. He released a video showing a growing cloud from an explosion on the bridge, with one of its sections destroyed. Ukraine claims it has seized more than 80 settlements over at least 1,150 square kilometers of Russian territory. It's been over 2 weeks since Kyiv launched a surprise strike on Russia on August 6th, the biggest invasion of Russia since World War II. The shock operation raised several questions about Russia's surveillance, as well as the caliber of its border fortifications and the forces guarding them. On Monday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed the goal of the incursion. He stated that the assault on the Kursk region is aimed at carving out a buffer zone and wearing down the Russian war machine. In recent days, Ukraine has been able to destroy 2 bridges with the aim of weakening Russian logistics. Military analysts say that the structures targeted were part of critical supply lines for Russian troops defending the area. On Monday, Ukraine's ground forces commander said that troops were successfully fulfilling tasks and capturing Russian prisoners of war to be traded for imprisoned Ukrainian troops. In a video posted by him, a group of more than 10 people with their hands in the air were seen walking along the road. Several other soldiers were seen kneeling beside the road. He did not say how many Russian prisoners had been taken. Despite making gains in Kursk, Ukrainian forces have been on the defensive in its own turf, near the strategic city of Pokrovsk. Here, Russia has steadily advanced in recent weeks. The city, which had a pre-war population of around 60,000, is an important transport hub for Ukrainian supply lines in much of the eastern Donbas region. According to Russian officials, Russian troops are now around 10 kilometers from the outskirts of the city. Russia has said that it has captured the town of Zaliznie in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region. Its offensive against the nearby city of Toretsk continues to gather steam. Zaliznie is what Russia used to call in the Soviet era Artyomovo. It sits adjoining Toretsk, a mining town and long-time bastion of Ukrainian forces operating in the Donbas region. It is also a city close to the front line, with territories seized by Russian-backed separatists in 2014. Toretsk, has also anchored Ukraine's fortifications in the area since. Back in Kursk, Russia is fighting to starve off Ukrainian gains. Presidential aide Yuri Ushakov said that Moscow was not ready to hold peace talks with Ukraine. Ushakov blamed it on Ukraine's attack on Kursk. He clarified that Russia will not be withdrawing its earlier peace proposals, but given the offensive in Kursk, Moscow will not talk with Ukraine for now. Asked if proposals for peace talks put forward by President Vladimir Putin in June were now off the table, Ushakov just said they were not. In June, Putin said that Russia would end the war in Ukraine only if Kyiv agreed to drop its NATO ambitions and hand over the entirety of 4 provinces claimed by Moscow. Ukraine, of course, rejected these demands. As the fighting intensifies, Russian Ministry of Emergencies released videos on Monday showing civilians being evacuated from Kursk. Authorities in Russia's Kursk region have evacuated tens of thousands of people from border areas with Ukraine. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
As the United States tries to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the question is, will Antony Blinken finally succeed where he has failed so many times before? As per reports, Blinken's message to Israeli leaders on Monday was clear. This ceasefire proposal, backed by the US, could be their last real chance to secure the release of Israeli hostages and bring some semblance of lasting security to West Asia. In fact, he called it a decisive moment, one that may not come again.
I'm here as part of an intensive diplomatic effort on President Biden's instructions to try to get this agreement to the line and ultimately over the line. It is time for it to get done. It's also time to make sure that no one takes any steps that could derail this process. And so we're working to make sure that there is no escalation, that there are no provocations, that there are no actions that in any way could move us away from getting this deal over the line, or, for that matter, escalating the conflict to other places and to greater intensity. I know this is a fraught moment in Israel, with deep concern about the possibility of attacks coming from Iran, coming from Hezbollah, and other sources.
You heard what Blinken had to say. It's hard to ignore the cloud of skepticism hanging over this latest attempt at peace. Blinken, remember, is on his 9th trip to the region since the October 7 war between Israel and Hamas broke out. So will this visit finally be the one that succeeds, or is it just another footnote in his shuttle diplomacy? As per reports, both Hamas and Israel have already expressed doubts over the ceasefire deal. Reportedly, the Israeli Prime Minister has made it clear that he will not withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor along the Gaza-Egypt border, a key demand from Hamas. And Hamas, on the other hand, accuses America of siding with Israel, claiming that the proposal reflects Netanyahu's demands while ignoring those of Hamas. You see, Blinken is walking a tightrope. He is meeting not only with Netanyahu, but also with the Israeli Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, all while trying to keep the peace process alive. He is urging all the parties to avoid any provocations that could derail the fragile talks. But the reality is that this is a fraught moment, as Blinken himself put it. The specter of a regional conflict looms large, with threats from Iran, Hezbollah, other regional players only adding to the volatility. After Israel, Blinken is reportedly headed to Egypt, another crucial player in this ongoing negotiations. But let's not forget, this is not the first time Blinken has embarked on such a mission. Since October 7, Blinken has crisscrossed West Asia as part of what many have called shuttle diplomacy. His frequent visits have made headlines, but they have also raised questions about their effectiveness. What's the end result? And are these trips truly diplomatic breakthroughs? Or are they merely a symbol of America's waning influence in the region? Let's just take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. Blinken's efforts have been met with criticism in the past for failing to produce tangible outcomes. Previous attempts at negotiating a truce, allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza, and easing the Israel-Hamas war have all fallen short. And now, with the situation even more dire, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsening, a potential polio outbreak looming, and the stakes heightened by the deaths of key figures like the Hamas political chief, Ismail Haniyeh, and Hezbollah's military chief, Fuad Shukr, the pressure on Blinken to deliver is immense. And there's also Iran to consider, of course. As per reports, Iran has indicated that it is holding off on striking Israel while the hostage ceasefire talks continue. But that restraint, you see, is conditional. If Iran perceives that Israel is dragging out these negotiations, or if the talks collapse entirely, a direct attack on Israel could be imminent. Furthermore, Iran and Hezbollah are reportedly planning on assassinating a high-ranking Israeli figure, as per reports. And this only adds another layer of urgency to Blinken's mission. So where does all of this leave West Asia? Blinken is once again at the center of a high-stakes diplomatic push, and the outcome is far from certain. If Blinken fails to secure a breakthrough now, it could very well be his last chance to make a meaningful impact in the region. And the question remains, will Blinken succeed this time? Or will this latest attempt at diplomacy end up as just another entry in a long list of failed efforts? The clock is ticking. And as the U.S. Secretary of State is trying to navigate his way with Hamas and Israel, among others, he might need to be wary of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, if he is not already, that is. Earlier this month, Netanyahu sat down for an interview with Time magazine, but it turns out much of what he said does not really hold up, and his statements are in fact riddled with inaccuracies, misleading claims, and in some cases, just outrightly false. One key topic was Netanyahu's alleged support for Hamas. During the interview, Netanyahu denied ever backing the group. Yet, back in 2012, he reportedly told an Israeli journalist that Hamas served as a necessary counterbalance to the Palestinian Authority. He made similar such statements in a 2019 Likud conference, so his claim that he never really supported Hamas does not seem to match his past remarks. Netanyahu also tried to downplay Hamas as a deterrent, saying that people who thought otherwise were mistaken. But a fact check by the magazine tells a different story. On several occasions, Netanyahu said the exact opposite. For example, during an appearance on Israel's Channel 14, he allegedly spoke about having fended off future attacks from the Gaza Strip after an 11-day conflict in 2021. Even in his 2022 memoir, Netanyahu wrote Hamas was sufficiently constrained, noting his real concern was Iran. And then finally, there is the issue of the West Bank. In the interview, Netanyahu denied seeking any annexation of the West Bank, but that's just not true. In January 2020, during a meeting with former U.S. President Donald Trump, Netanyahu reportedly pushed for a plan to extend Israeli sovereignty over 30% of the West Bank. And that move sparked a massive backlash across the world. So as Blinken continues his diplomatic efforts, he may find navigating Netanyahu's shifting narratives as challenging as dealing with the broader conflict itself. Shifting focus now to Pakistan, it's about its imprisoned former Prime Minister's fight to stay relevant. I am talking about Imran Khan. He wants to become Oxford University's next Chancellor. You heard that right. After cricket and politics, Imran Khan, it seems, wants to try his hand in academia. According to Sayyid Zulfi Bukhari, who is one of Khan's advisors, Khan has submitted an application to run in the election for which the university's graduates and staff will vote later this year. The elections will be held in October to replace Chris Patten, former Conservative minister. Khan, as you know, served as Pakistan's Prime Minister from 2018 to 2022. In fact, he was ousted through an army-backed vote of no confidence. And for the past 12 months, he has been in jail on a string of charges. Now the question is, can Imran Khan serve as the Chancellor of Oxford University from jail? Does he even have the relevant qualifications to be the Chancellor at Oxford? Apparently he does, or so is the claim. You see, for several years now, elections to the largely ceremonial role of Oxford Chancellor required the graduates and the staff to be in Oxford and wearing academic dress to vote. But Imran Khan's candidacy has been eased by new rules which basically allow nominations and voting to be carried out online. Khan's qualifications include 8 years as Chancellor of the University of Bradford. He has also studied politics, philosophy and economics at Oxford's Keble College in the 1970s. He also won honours for the university's cricket team. Remember, Khan has captained the Pakistan men's cricket team when they won the World Cup in the year 1992. Nominations for candidates for the role closed on Sunday. The university has not confirmed individual candidates and a final list will be published in early October. While such open campaigning for the role of Oxford Chancellor is rare, reports suggest that likely candidates include Elish Angiolini, the former Lord Advocate of Scotland and Principal of St. Hugh's College, as well as Margaret Kesley-Hayward, a former chair of Shakespeare's Globe. The convocation members, which include all university alumni who have been granted a degree at Oxford, are the ones responsible for electing the Chancellor. Anyone seeking to run for that position must receive a nomination from at least 2 convocation members to even be considered eligible. Voting will be held online from the 28th of October, and only Oxford graduates and members of the university's congregation can cast their vote. It is a non-executive role, but it is a coveted position to say the least. The new Chancellor will hold the position for 10 years. The Chancellor chairs the committee appointing the Vice-Chancellor. They are involved in fundraising, advocacy, oversight. The Chancellorship traditionally goes to university graduates, often politicians. Can Imran Khan serve as the Chancellor if he is in jail? We don't know yet. Last month, the United Nations declared Khan's detention arbitrary, stating there is no legal basis for keeping him in jail. Still, hundreds of his party workers and leaders remain in jail or are being prosecuted. If he is elected as the Oxford Chancellor, will the authorities actually let him go, or will he serve as the Oxford Chancellor from jail? We will have to wait and watch. There appears to be a serious escalation between China and the Philippines in the disputed South China Sea. This time around, there's been quite a serious collision between vessels from the two sides. And as usual, a blame game has followed. However, this incident raises alarm as one of Philippines' vessels was left with a 1-meter large hole. Why are such incidents of Chinese aggression on the rise? Our next report telling you more.
China's expansionist goals and aggression are well known. It has land and maritime boundary issues with 17 nations. Sure, some of these disputes are more likely to flare up than the rest, but Philippines is among the nations that has increasingly witnessed China's strong-arm tactics. There have been many notable incidents of confrontation between China and Philippines, most of which are clear signals of Beijing's aggression, involve a wider range of tactics to harass and intimidate Manila. To name a few, China has blocked Filipino fishing vessels from entering a few regions. Chinese vessels shadow and chase their Filipino counterparts, often forcing them to dump their precious catch. If you thought that's all, this is just one part of it. Chinese Coast Guard ships fire water cannons at Filipino patrol boats. These are powerful water cannons. The effects can be quite devastating. In some cases, the windshields of the Filipino boats have been shattered and their crew have been injured. Dumping too much water into a vessel can cause it to tilt to one side, lose balance, and even sink small vessels. In recent months, things have further escalated, from firing shipborne water cannons to ramming of boats. From minor bumps between vessels from both sides, things have gotten to the level where boats chase each other and end up colliding. Recent collisions have caused fairly serious physical damage to the vessel. Here's an image shared by the Philippine side. They say that this gaping hole on the side of one of its vessels was the direct result of a Chinese vessel ramming it. Even in the case of the latest collision, as always, both sides have their own version of what happened. We would continue to take lawful, resolute and forceful measures to safeguard its territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. We hope that the Philippines can keep its commitments and earnestly abide by the temporary arrangements reached with China. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said. Philippines has a different take. Manila said its Coast Guard vessels Cape Engano and Baga Cay were on their way to resupply personnel stationed on islands there, and that's when the confrontation occurred near Sabina Shoal. This is the biggest structural damage that we have incurred as a result of the dangerous maneuvers carried out by the Chinese Coast Guard, PCG spokesperson J. Tariella said. The Philippine side showed pictures of a boat with a 1 meter wide impact hole. China says they've been rammed by the Philippines. The Chinese Coast Guard posted a short video of the incident which showed what it said was a Philippine Coast Guard ship deliberately ramming with what it said was one of their vessels. Philippines maintains that the said video is misleading. The Sabina Shoal, where this incident occurred, is in the Spratly Islands. It is a disputed territory claimed by China, the Philippines, Taiwan and Vietnam. This is an age-old issue, with its genesis in the 1940s. As per the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, countries are entitled to an exclusive economic zone extended 200 nautical miles from their coastlines. Within their EEZ, nations have the right to exploit marine resources, with China claiming a vast part of the South China Sea. The disputes are bound to recur. China's aggressive claims in the South China Sea remains one of the most contentious issues in Southeast Asia. It doesn't just involve maritime and territorial boundary disputes, but also raises questions on freedom of navigation, resource exploration, and military presence in the region.
Is India ready to fight Mpox? A new variant of the Mpox virus has sent alarm bells ringing around the world. Mpox was originally called monkeypox. It was first identified in monkeys in the year 1958. There have been several outbreaks since. Between 2022 and 24, 110 countries have reported cases of Mpox. There have been at least 112 deaths and around 87,000 cases. This is according to the World Health Organization. So what is this recent alarm all about? It involves a new variant. It is being called Clade 1b. This new Mpox variant has become a cause of concern worldwide. Why is that? Because it spreads easily through close contact. For the longest time, Mpox has been endemic to the Central and Western Africa. As per Africa's Center for Disease Control, cases of Mpox are up 160% in 2024. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mpox cases have been detected in all 26 provinces. Reports say there are about 15,700 suspected cases. Nearly 550 people have died so far this year. In just the last month, Mpox has also jumped to 4 countries neighboring the DRC that had previously not seen cases of the virus. I'm talking about Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda. On the 14th of August, the World Health Organization determined that the upsurge of Mpox in DR Congo and some other countries constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. And since then, Mpox has been reported in many more countries. The Philippines has reported its first Mpox case of the year. The patient is a 33-year-old Filipino male. He has no recent travel history. How then did he catch the virus? Authorities are trying to answer that question. Pakistan also has confirmed at least 1 case of Mpox. And what's worse, authorities in Pakistan are not able to track the location of the patient. And this person had returned from a Gulf country. He gave his samples and then he moved to another district. Let me remind you that this variant is easily communicable. The Director General of the WHO, in fact, said, and I'm quoting here, a coordinated international response is needed to stop these outbreaks and save lives, quote unquote. Which brings me back to the question I began by asking, is India prepared for a potential Mpox outbreak in the country? This disease can spread through touch, through consuming or even cooking infected animal. Mpox can spread through contaminated sheets, clothes, needles. A pregnant mother can pass the virus to her unborn child. That is how scary the virus is. Is India prepared to fight it? What does India need to fight Mpox is the immediate question. Number 1, it needs to enhance surveillance. And number 2, India needs to raise awareness. Speak to the healthcare providers about the signs and symptoms of Mpox. And number 3, labs need to be prepared for mass testing and early diagnosis. As per reports, there are at least 32 labs in India that are equipped for testing Mpox cases. Number 4, airports need to be on high alert. If it comes to that, India may need to start testing passengers of incoming international flights. A series of high-level meetings have been held in the last week. Experts have met and assessed the risk for India. They have discussed India's preparedness for a potential outbreak of Mpox in the country. What are the symptoms of the disease? Rash, fever, sore throat, headache, muscle ache, back pain, low energy, swollen lymph nodes. Is there a vaccine for Mpox? Thankfully, there is. There are, in fact, 2 WHO recommended vaccines for Mpox, and getting the vaccine can help prevent the infection. Can Alzheimer's disease be reversed? Scientists and medical researchers around the world have been trying to find a solution to this for decades. And now a groundbreaking new study is giving new hope. A new study conducted by scientists at the Technical University of Munich has reportedly unveiled the cause of the disease. They say that the cause is a more stealthy and tiny menace called amyloid beta monomer. You see, the disease is caused by accumulation of amyloid plaques in the brain. For the unversed, these are aggregates of misfolded proteins that form in the spaces between the nerve cells. And these abnormally configured proteins are thought to play a central role as far as the disease is concerned. They first develop in the areas of the brain that are concerned with memory and other cognitive functions. Previously, treatments focused on amyloid plaques that form later in the disease's progression. And now researchers are shifting their focus to combat AB monomers, which appear at an early stage. These tiny protein fragments grow and clump together, unleashing chaos in the brain. They are the foundations of the bigger amyloid plaques. They say that if this is targeted early on, it has the potential to stop this devastating disease in its tracks, even before it begins. Finding out the new origin opens up new avenues for treating Alzheimer's. It is a disease that affects millions across the world. It impairs cognitive abilities and corrodes precious memories. Researchers have prepared a protein fiber called an anticalin. It is also named H1GA. It behaves like a molecular sponge. It absorbs the dangerous AB monomers before they transition into concerning levels. And by stopping these monomers from clumping all together, the researchers basically aim to prevent Alzheimer's from taking hold. They say that the change in treatment's focus will also assist in better recovery. With this promising research, have scientists finally found the cure to the disease? Only time will tell. Shifting focus for now, our next story is about a picture, one that has now gone viral. This one, as some of you have already recognized perhaps, this is a Tesla Cybertruck, the one that Tesla unveiled in 2019. But that's not the story. The story is what's atop this Cybertruck. Can you see the machine gun? Also, do you recognize the man standing behind the gun? That's Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. On Saturday, he published a video of himself driving this machine gun-mounted Tesla Cybertruck through a square in Chechenia's capital. The Chechen leader wrote on Telegram, and I'm quoting here, "We've received a Tesla Cybertruck from the respected Elon Musk. I was happy to test the new equipment and personally saw that there is a reason it is called the Cyber Beast, quote unquote." And in the same message, the Chechen leader also called Musk the strongest genius of our time, quote unquote. Kadyrov said that he wants to send this gun-mounted Tesla to the battlefield in Ukraine. This video spread like wildfire. People could not help but ask, why would Musk send a Cybertruck to a Chechen leader? Musk, remember, has been helping Ukraine in this war, not Russia. Musk has provided Starlink satellite internet services to Ukraine. This service has come to Ukraine's help, in fact, in carrying out military operations against Russia. So why was Musk suddenly sending a Cybertruck to a Chechen leader? Kadyrov, by the way, has been sanctioned in the US. Washington accused him of human rights abuses, including torture and extrajudicial killings. So what explains Musk's gift? What's the story here? None other than Musk himself. No one other than Musk himself can actually answer this question, and he has answered the question. He wrote on the platform X, and I'm quoting here, "Are you seriously so retarded that you think I donated a Cybertruck to a Russian general?" Quote unquote. In other words, the Chechen leader was lying. But how he got hold of the Cybertruck remains a huge mystery. Time now for Gravitas Recall, and today, that is the 19th of August, marks 90 years since Germany elected Adolf Hitler as the Chancellor, solidifying his absolute and unchallenged power. On this day in 1934, a national referendum was held for merging the posts of Chancellor and President, in which Hitler secured an overwhelming 90% majority after the death of President Paul von Hindenburg just 2 weeks prior. This event marked a pivotal moment in history not just in Germany, but across the world. The consolidation of power into Hitler's hands basically set the stage for World War II, which occurred just 5 years later and went on for 6 years, claiming over 70 million lives. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. This is me, Molly Gampir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.